as the warm glow of evening light begins to soften. Allow yourself to settle deeply into a state of quiet comfort and rest. The visual image on your screen will gently fade to darkness after this opening card, leaving only the peaceful sound of a calm voice to guide you into the hidden world of a bygone era. Take a long, slow breath as twilight draws its soft velvet curtain over the rolling parkland of a Victorian country manor. Outside, the final golden rays of sunlight slip beneath the horizon, casting long, gentle shadows across manicured lawns and ancient oak trees. Within the grand estate, heavy timber doors stand securely closed against the cool gathering dusk, and the lively energy of daytime slowly gives way to profound stillness. Higher up in formal drawing rooms, firelight flickers against polished mahogany and heavy drapery, while down below, deep within the architectural heart of the home, a very different rhythm of life continues softly through dim, peaceful passageways. Stepping quietly into the subterranean corridors beneath the main residence, one immediately feels the cool, grounding presence of stone foundations. Here, along whitewashed walls illuminated by the steady, amber hum of low gas lamps, lies the hidden mechanism that kept the great household running seamlessly. The air carries a subtle, comforting blend of scents, from freshly melted beeswax and clean-pressed linen to dried lavender and the faint warmth of wood smoke from distant kitchen hearths. Down these long, cool halls, the staff moved with effortless grace, attending to evening duties with practiced care and quiet dignity. Every chore was performed with deliberate composure, so as to never disturb the serene atmosphere above. As the final duties of the day are completed, heavy oak preparation tables are wiped clean. Copper cookware gleams softly from high shelves, and long shadows stretch gently across flagstones, inviting a sense of restful ease to envelop the house. In large Victorian estates like Erdig in Wales, footmen quieted their steps across stone corridors by wearing custom cloth-soled slippers, ensuring the house remained still, except for the soft chime of numbered brass indicator boards in the pantry. These soft fabric soles absorbed every gentle impact against the cold stone floor, allowing household servants to glide through the long passages with virtually no audible sound at all. In the quiet darkness of the pantry, intricate brass indicator boxes hung in orderly rows, their polished surfaces catching the warm reflection of a single oil lamp. Whenever a room button was pressed upstairs, a tiny brass pendulum would sway gracefully back and forth, sounding a delicate, silver-toned bell that signaled a call without disrupting the home's deep hush. This careful attention to silence created a sanctuary of peace where work and rest existed in perfect balance. As night fully settles over the country estate, the last remaining lamps are trimmed, and a soft, protective quiet folds around every corridor, room, and courtyard. The gentle routines of the day fade into memory, replaced by the deep, restorative stillness of the nocturnal hours. Let the lingering stillness of this quiet sanctuary wrap around you now, calming your thoughts and easing your mind. Every hallway is still. Every breath is slow and easy, and you may drift effortlessly into a peaceful, unbroken sleep. Long before the golden warmth of daylight reached the tall sash windows of the grand country estate, a quiet rhythm began in the shadows below stairs. In the gentle stillness of the pre-dawn hours, when even the birds remained silent in the surrounding parkland, domestic staff moved through cool corridors with practiced, hushed steps. Every movement was deliberate and soft, intended to wake neither the family resting above nor the lingering peacefulness of the night. In grand drawing rooms and private chambers, fireplaces held cold remnants of yesterday's warmth, waiting for attentive hands to prepare them anew. At Stourhead in Wiltshire, housemaids cleared cold hearth ashes by scattering damp beechwood sawdust over the grate before sweeping with soft horsehair brushes, trapping loose soot quietly so no dust disturbed the still morning air. The fine particles of moist wood caught the light soot before it could float into the quiet darkness, preserving the pristine cleanliness of mantel and draperies nearby. The gentle rustle of horsehair against iron was the only sound, a soft whisper that blurred into the background of the house. As each hearth was tidied and laid with dry kindling, the air carried a faint fragrance of damp timber and cool stone, anchoring the morning in serene, methodical care. Moving beyond the hearths, the same tranquil devotion to quietude guided every chore across the sprawling residence. Expansive reception rooms and long, carpeted galleries required equal tender consideration to ensure fine textiles remained pristine and free of dust. In the quiet hours before dawn, scullery maids scattered damp, used tea leaves across delicate floral carpets to absorb microdust without raising clouds before sweeping with soft bristle brooms. The moist leaves rolled gently across the woven wool, gathering microscopic debris and holding it fast within their dark folds. This simple, clever tradition prevented fine dust from rising into the dim air or settling onto carved mahogany furniture and gilded picture frames. With slow, rhythmic strokes, brooms gathered the tea leaves into tidy piles, leaving behind the faint, comforting aroma of steeped black tea mixed with the cool scent of early morning air. The carpet fibers, refreshed and clean, lay smooth underfoot, completely silent as the maids glided from one section of the room to another. It was a chore performed in near darkness, lit only by the soft glow of an oil lantern or the subtle gray light filtering through heavy velvet curtains. This quiet choreography of morning preparation was designed to render the working life of the household entirely invisible upstairs. By the time the estate family took their very first steps down the grand staircase, sawdust, tea leaves, and soot had vanished, leaving only order, quiet comfort, and stillness. Servants moved through secret back passages, their aprons rustling softly as as they carried away the remnants of early labor. There was a peaceful dignity in this silent craftsmanship, an understanding that the comfort of the home rested upon thousands of gentle, invisible touches carried out before the world awoke. Outside, morning mist drifted across wide lawns, while inside, fires flickered softly in freshly swept hearths, glowing with steady warmth. As light filled the high-ceilinged rooms, the house stood calm and prepared, wrapped in the quiet contentment of another day softly begun. Long before the sun had fully crested the horizon, the corridors of the grand Victorian house remained wrapped in a soft, silvery twilight. For the housemaids who moved through these shadowy hallways, the early hours offered a unique form of quiet solitude. While the family above and the rest of the household slept, these women carried out their duties with a gentle, practiced rhythm designed to maintain the estate's order without disrupting its deep silence. Step by quiet step, they navigated the cool flagstone passages and carpeted landings, their soft-soled slippers making almost no sound against the floor. Light from a single handheld oil lantern cast warm, flickering amber glows across the carved wainscoting and gilded picture frames, illuminating the fine veil of morning mist that clung to the window panes. In this early stillness, domestic labor took on an almost meditative quality, dictated not by urgency, but by a steady, methodical attention to detail. Every surface required distinct care, and every room possessed its own familiar scent of old timber, lavender water, and aged leather, creating an atmosphere that felt both timeless and deeply serene. Among the most peaceful, yet physically demanding tasks of the early morning was the care of the estate's grand timber galleries and reception rooms. In notable country homes, such as Ham House in Surrey, housemaids polished the gallery's wide oak floorboards using 30-pound lead-weighted brushes slid slowly over beeswax, producing a deep satin sheen along the quiet corridors without raising dust. This rhythmic gliding motion relied on the sheer weight of the heavy iron and lead block rather than quick, tiring friction, allowing the maid to guide the weighted brush back and forth in long, soothing sweeps across the grain. The dense beeswax filled the microscopic pores of the ancient timber, nourishing the oak while creating a protective layer that captured stray particles instead of scattering them into the air. As the heavy brush moved smoothly along the length of the hall, the subtle friction warmed the wax, transforming the matte surface into a soft, lustrous reflection of the mullioned windows. The gentle hum of wood meeting weighted felt became a comforting heartbeat within the sleeping mansion, marking the slow passage of time as daylight began to touch the tops of the tall trees outside. When the waxing was complete, a tranquil stillness returned to the long gallery, leaving behind a subtle scent of honey and clean wood that lingered in the warming air. The newly polished floorboards mirrored the low morning light, creating a calm pool of amber and gold that stretched into the distance. for a brief moment before the household fully awakened and the daily demands of service resumed. The maids could pause at the end of the hall and look back across their handiwork. There was a quiet satisfaction in having preserved the beauty of the home without a single harsh sound or cloud of dust to disturb the morning peace. The grand house seemed to rest contentedly within its own orderly surroundings, wrapped in a blanket of hush and gentle care. As the distant clock tower struck the hour, calling the domestic staff to their next gentle routines, the gallery stood ready, serene, pristine, and glowing with the quiet warmth of a new day. As twilight gently settles over the countryside estate, a deep and calming stillness descends upon the state rooms and high-ceilinged corridors. The busy hum of afternoon duties gradually recedes into silence, leaving only the soft rustle of linen aprons and the light, deliberate footsteps of housemaids moving softly across hand-woven carpets. In the dimming light of late evening, the great Victorian house begins to rest. Its tall windows reflect the quiet purple hues of dusk, while the dark oak paneling retains the soothing warmth of the day's hearth fires. Every task performed during these peaceful hours is executed with unhurried care, guided by long experience and a quiet respect for the home's historic interior. In this tranquil twilight, the preservation of the manor demands patience, focus, and a gentle touch, allowing the quiet beauty of each room to emerge completely undisturbed, wrapped in an atmosphere of enduring peace. Within the grand reception areas, the walls themselves require specialized, painstaking attention to shield them from the slow accumulation of airborne dust and coal soot. In the drawing rooms of Whitewick Manor in Staffordshire, housemaids cleaned delicate William Morris wallpapers by wiping the floral patterns downward with the soft inner crumb of a day-old white loaf, paring away soot-darkened surfaces with a small knife as they worked. Working methodically along each vertical drop of paper, the maid glides her hands in smooth, gentle motions that follow the intricate curves of stylized acanthus leaves, creeping willow boughs, and blooming chrysanthemums. The soft, unbaked dough acts as a natural eraser, gently lifting away the film of urban smoke without dampening the delicate distemper paints or damaging the fragile paper beneath. With each slow pass, the outer surface of the breadcrumb darkens as it traps the microscopic particles of ash, prompting the maid to pare away the soiled outer layer with a sharp knife to expose a fresh, clean surface of soft bread once again. The soft, crumbly texture acts with absolute gentleness, taking away the subtle shadows left by winter heating fires. Small, soft flakes of stale dough fall gently onto a linen drop cloth laid carefully along the skirting boards, carrying away months of quiet grime. Beneath her steady hands, the original brilliance of the block-printed design begins to reappear, uncovering muted indigos, soft sage greens, and warm madder tones that had been dimmed by time. This quiet, careful cleaning requires no harsh chemicals or abrasive cloths, relying instead on simple, time-tested materials that honor the delicate craftsmanship of the wall coverings. The rhythmic repetition of the work brings a restful, meditative cadence to the quiet room, accompanied only by the faint fragrance of fresh bread, polished mahogany, and dried lavender lingering from the linen press. There is a deep, comforting satisfaction in this gentle art of restoration, performed in the tranquil space between the family's departure and the night's final rest. When the last panel is restored to its pristine state, the maid gathers the fallen crumbs into her apron, folds the drop cloth with quiet efficiency, and leaves the drawing room impeccably serene. The restored wall patterns seem to glow softly in the faint embers of the hearth, standing as a quiet testament to the invisible care that maintains the peace and warmth of the home for another night. As twilight settles over the vast countryside, a deep and comforting stillness falls upon the great estate. Long after the formal reception rooms have emptied and the evening fires have softened into glowing coals, the quiet work of preserving the house continues at a slow, meditative pace. Behind heavy mahogany doors and along softly carpeted corridors, the servants move with silent, deliberate grace, tending to the exquisite materials that adorn every room. Their tasks are not driven by haste or urgency, but by an enduring rhythm of quiet craftsmanship passed down through generations of careful hands. The gentle rustle of linen aprons, the faint glow of beeswax candles, and the rhythmic sweep of a soft cloth create an atmosphere of profound tranquility. In these muted hours between dusk and nightfall, every object receives its dedicated attention, protecting precious heirlooms from the slow passage of time and the damp English air. In the spacious picture galleries and grand drawing rooms, delicate oil paintings and ornate carved woodwork require a tender, specialized touch. Here, the housemaids proceed with soft, quiet steps, bringing gentle solutions prepared according to time-honored household wisdom. To clean delicate gilded picture frames without damaging gold leaf, housemaids at Highclere Castle gently brushed ornate carvings with water simmered with yellow onions, removing soot film while leaving a soft, protective luster. This subtle method safely lifted the fine haze of coal dust that settled from open hearths, restoring the luminous sheen without weakening the fragile gold leaf underneath. The motion of the fine badger hair brush against the carved foliage and scrolling details was slow and soothing, a peaceful ritual that transformed darkened borders back into softly glowing frames. As the warm candle light caught the refreshed gold, a calm radiance filled the quiet hall, wrapping the historic space in a comforting glow. Further along the quiet corridor lies the library, a still haven lined with tall shelves of rare, leather-bound books. In the grand library at Kingston Lacy in Dorset, household footmen conditioned fine calfskin book bindings. By applying a drop of sweet almond oil mixed with clove essence, using soft cotton rags, preserving the leather through damp winters, while scenting the alcoves of dried spice. Each volume was handled with patient devotion, its fine leather nourished to remain smooth and resilient against the damp winter drafts. The comforting scent of clove floated softly through the tall alcoves, blending harmoniously with the familiar aroma of aged paper and polished oak. Moving along the quiet rows, wiping each spine with steady, gentle circles, the footman brought a peaceful order to the spacious room. The soft cloth smoothed away every trace of wear, leaving each volume protected for decades to come as night deepened outside. With the last volumes resting in their places and the gilded frames glowing under soft candlelight, a deep sense of restful fulfillment settles over the entire estate. The evening tasks reach their quiet completion, leaving every room carefully tended, preserved, and still. The servants step silently back into the dim hallways, returning to their own quiet quarters for a well-earned rest. The grand house stands in peaceful silence, shielded by hours of mindful care. As the final candles are dimmed, a soothing calm lulls the entire household into deep, undisturbed sleep. As dusk settled gently over the grand country estates of the Victorian era, the upper floors gradually slowed into an evening hush, leaving the subterranean passageways to their own tranquil rhythms. Deep within the lower quarters, far removed from the formal drawing rooms, the silver pantry served as a quiet sanctuary of order. Here, beneath the soft glow of oil lamps, the day's dinner services were brought to be cleaned, inspected, and safely stored away. The air within this secure room was always still, smelling gently of beeswax, felt, and clean linens. Outside, the night wind might rustle the ancient trees, but inside the pantry, the world contracted to the simple, comforting work of hands, moving over precious metals. It was a space designed for slow concentration, where footmen worked side by side in companionable silence, guided by the steady, soothing tick of a wall clock marking the peaceful passage of the night. The preservation of the household's finest silver required patience, precise knowledge, and a calm, repetitive rhythm that transformed routine maintenance into a meditative ritual. In the silver pantry at Petworth House in Sussex, footmen polished delicate silverware using a smooth paste of precipitated chalk and sweet almond oil, buffing each piece with soft deer-hide chamois to create a streak-free shine. Each utensil was handled with deliberate grace. The gentle paste worked across tarnished metal before being buffed into a warm, mirror-like depth with the supple leather. The soft sound of chamois moving over polished silver filled the room with a gentle hum, creating an atmosphere of deep tranquility. Heavy gravy boats, ornate candelabras, tea services, and delicate spoons all received the same patient attention. Under the yellow flame of the lamp, every curve and engraved crest caught the light, reflecting back the steady dedication of those working quietly behind closed doors. Once each piece had reached its proper luster, it was returned with gentle precision to its its assigned place, inside custom-built chests lined with thick baize or crimson velvet. Every fork nestled comfortably into its tailored slot, while large platters rested between soft sheets of flannel to guard against the slightest mark. The butler would then perform a quiet, reassuring count, verifying each item against the leather ledger before the heavy iron-bound safe was locked for the evening. The heavy brass key would turn with a satisfying, muffled click, signaling that the day's duties were fully finished. The organized drawers, locked away in darkness, held the calm, quiet satisfaction of a long day's effort completed in thorough, silent perfection, leaving every surface pristine. As the footmen slowly extinguished the oil lamps one by one, soft shadows stretched across the clean wooden tables, wrapping the silver pantry in a warm, peaceful darkness. Stepping quietly into the cool stone hallway, the servants walked with soft footsteps toward their quarters in the upper eaves or basement rooms. The great house above was now completely dormant, its heavy velvet curtains drawn tight against the cool night air. A deep, uninterrupted calm settled over every corridor and hidden room behind closed doors, with no further chores remaining, and the quiet stillness of midnight embracing the entire estate. The servants rested at last, letting the soft, steady silence carry them gently into a deep and restorative sleep. As evening quiet descended over the Victorian estate, the bustling activity of the main household slowly receded, giving way to a serene stillness deep within the subterranean passages. Below the gilded reception rooms where chandeliers flickered softly, a peaceful realm existed, defined by cool limestone walls, low vaulted brickwork, and the soothing hush of underground spaces. Here, beneath the feet of visiting guests, the cellar staff carried out their late duties with quiet, unhurried precision. The air in these lower depths carried a timeless, earthy chill that isolated the cellar from the frantic pace of the upper floors. Guided by the amber glow of a handheld oil lantern, a servant moved along flagstone corridors where damp stone absorbed every sound, creating an atmosphere of restful solitude. The heavy wooden doors of the storage vaults opened with a muted creak, revealing rows of meticulously kept bins where the estate's finest provisions rested in darkness. Down in these quiet passages, time seemed to stretch into a slow, comforting cadence, offering a tranquil sanctuary far from the constant demands of domestic life. Within these underground chambers, maintaining the delicate environment required an intimate knowledge of natural temperature control, passed down through generations of staff. In the subterranean cellars of Holcombe Hall in Norfolk, the cellarman rested vintage claret bottles within deep stone bins, packed with sieved river sand, keeping the wine at a constant 52 degrees Fahrenheit through changing seasons. This thoughtful practice ensured that the fine liquid inside remained undisturbed by shifting weather outside, cushioned gently against both winter frosts and summer heat waves. The sieved sand served as a natural insulator, wrapping each bottle in an even layer of cool earth that softened ambient vibrations and preserved the corks. Working by the soft yellow light of a tallow candle, the cellarman's hands moved with calm, deliberate care as he nestled each dark bottle into its sandy bed. There was no rush in this work, for vintage claret demanded patience, and the cellar staff took quiet pride in maintaining this ideal microclimate. The silent bins held years of wine-making craft, resting peacefully in their stone niches as the earth provided an unchanging embrace season after season. As the final tasks of the night were completed, a deep, restorative calm settled over the subterranean vaults, wrapping the quiet spaces in peaceful rest. The cellarman paused for a quiet moment at the threshold of the vault, taking in the clean, pleasant aroma of damp limestone, cured oak casks, and fine river sand that filled the cool air. The silence down here was absolute and comforting, broken only by the soft, steady rhythm of his own breathing and the distant, gentle murmur of the house settling into the night above. Securing the heavy iron latch on the cellar door, he turned the brass key with a gentle, satisfying click, ensuring that the precious contents would remain perfectly safe and undisturbed until morning. Walking slowly back toward the spiral stone staircase, his lantern cast soft, flickering shadows against whitewashed brick walls, marking the peaceful end of another long day of dedicated service. Up above, the household slept peacefully, while deep below, the sturdy stone foundations held their silent guard over the resting estate, suspended in a tranquil and timeless harmony. As twilight descends across the sprawling countryside, a profound stillness settles over the lower passageways of the great estate. Deep beneath the main hall, where the heat of the day cannot reach, the air remains pleasantly cool and still, preserved by thick stone walls and shaded vaulted ceilings. Here, the evening work moves at a meditative, soft-spoken rhythm, focused on the gentle preservation of the daily harvest. In the Subterranean marble dairy at Tatton Park in Cheshire, dairy maids rinsed fresh butter in carved sycamore wood bowls filled with ice-cold spring water, keeping the cream sweet and firm through quiet summer evenings. The soft splash of water against smooth wood creates a rhythmic, hypnotic sound in the dim light of lanterns, echoing faintly off the white tiled walls. The cool touch of marble and stone underfoot brings a sense of deep relief after hours spent tending to the busy estate. Every movement in this subterranean sanctuary is deliberate and unhurried, as the cool spring currents preserve the delicate freshness of the morning yield for the days to come. Farther along the service corridors, past the quiet larders and stone flagstones, a gentle, fragrant warmth begins to embrace the air. In the laundry suite, where the soft scent of lavender and clean starch lingers from the day's washing, the final duties of the evening are carried out with patient precision. Tending to the most delicate garments of the household requires a steady hand, and a deep understanding of fine textiles. At Tintisfield in Somerset, laundry maids smoothed delicate lace collars by placing them between polished slabs of white marble warmed over the drying room stove, rubbing the stone with pure almond wax to prevent any pulling of threads. The subtle aroma of melted almond wax fills the warm room, blending with the steady, quiet hum of the fading stove coals. Each piece of lace is handled with quiet reverence, sliding smoothly between the warm stone surfaces until every fine pattern and intricate motif lies perfectly flat and soft. It is a slow, methodical ritual, turning the routine care of fine linen into a peaceful, quiet craft. As the final embers in the drying stove soften into glowing ash, a soothing hush envelops the entire lower house. The tools of the trade, the wooden paddles, the wax blocks, and the stone slabs are wiped clean and laid neatly in their places, ready for the dawn. These quiet, hidden spaces behind the grand staircases and carved doors harbor a deep sense of calm, sustained by generations of quiet dedication and steady craftsmanship. With every task completed and every room made ready for the night, the servants step softly through the muted corridors toward their own quiet quarters. The heavy oak doors rest on their iron hinges. The lantern flames are dimmed to soft golden points, and the entire house surrenders to the restfulness of the evening. Outside, the night breeze rustles gently through the surrounding parkland trees, carrying a deep and peaceful quiet over the stone facade, lulling both the house and all who dwell within it into an undisturbed, tranquil sleep. As the quiet dusk settles over the expansive stone wings of the country estate, a soft and comforting warmth lingers within the high-walled service rooms dedicated to the care of fine household linen. Far removed from the grand reception halls above, where heavy velvet curtains are drawn against the evening air, the laundry wing maintains its own tranquil, unbroken rhythm. Here, the day's heavy washing has long since concluded, and the humid heat of the morning coppers yields smoothly to the drier, steady warmth of the ironing hearth. Long wooden tables, scrubbed pale and smooth by years of daily use, stand ready beneath the gentle glow of oil lamps and the soft, fading light from high leaded windows. Dampened cotton sheets, fine table napery, and delicate garments lie neatly folded, awaiting the final smoothing touch of the laundry maids. There is a deeply soothing predictability to this late afternoon work, where each simple, repetitive movement, shaking out a piece of damp fabric, smoothing the seams, and guiding a heavy iron across the weave, becomes a restful cadence, marking the quiet close of another day behind closed doors. At the heart of this quiet workspace sits the specialized stove, its thick cast iron plates radiating a deep, comforting heat that fills the room with a drowsy warmth. Heavy flat irons rest in tidy rows atop the stove, absorbing the heat until their bases glow with an invisible, penetrating temperature. Handling these weighty iron tools requires a blend of gentle skill and patient timing, as each iron must be carefully wiped and tested before touching the pristine fabrics of the household. In the dedicated ironing room at Lanhydrock House in Cornwall, laundry maids rubbed heavy cast iron flat irons against beeswax wrapped in coarse linen before pressing cotton collars, creating a smooth glide that left a gentle aroma of warm honey across the tables. This simple, traditional practice served both function and comfort, preventing the hot metal from snagging on delicate threads, while filling the spacious room with a subtle, comforting fragrance. As the iron moved rhythmically across crisp cotton collars and stiffened cuffs, the faint sweetness of heated wax mingled with the clean scent of fresh steam, creating an atmosphere that felt surprisingly peaceful amidst the steady routine of domestic service. Once each piece was pressed to perfection, it was carefully folded or hung upon wicker frames to air fully in the lingering heat before being carried upstairs to the grand linen presses. The steady, rhythmic scrape of irons resting against their stands, and the soft whisper of starched cloth filling the air, created a lulling soundscape, carrying the maids through the final quiet hours of their shift. Outside, the shadows lengthen across the estate grounds, wrapping the surrounding lawns and quiet woods in a serene twilight. While inside the laundry wing, the irons slowly cool upon their hearths. The folded piles of white linen rest in neat, fragrant stacks on the polished wooden shelves, testament to hours of quiet, patient craft. As the lamps are trimmed low and the heavy timber doors are softly clicked shut, a deep stillness settles over the wing, leaving only the soft memory of warm steam and the sweet, lingering scent of honey suspended in the peaceful night air. As dusk settles gently and softly over the estate, the lower corridors of the great country house sink into a soothing, amber-hued silence. The evening's work in the main dining hall is finished, the heavy silver trays polished and returned to their felt-lined drawers, and the faint scent of beeswax and lavender floats through the cool stone passageways. For the senior household staff, these late hours offer a quiet refuge, a window of time when the bustling demands of the day yield to slow, methodical routines performed in the peaceful solitude of the service wing. Beneath the warm, golden flicker of oil lamps, the atmosphere carries a comforting rhythm of calm craftsmanship, where every task is executed with patient care and soft precision. In these tranquil spaces, far removed from the formal drawing rooms above stairs, the servants move with measured grace, attending to the subtle details that keep the household running smoothly. The steady ticking of a grandfather clock in the steward's room marks the passage of twilight, accompanying the delicate rustle of laundered fabrics and the gentle scraping of wooden keys turning in polished locks. Within these serene sanctuary rooms, the preservation of fine domestic textiles was elevated to an art form, steeped in traditional knowledge passed down through generations of experienced housekeepers. In the quiet stillroom at Dunham Massey in Cheshire, housekeepers wrapped freshly ironed damask table linens in sheets of pale blue tissue paper before storing them in cedar presses, neutralizing yellowing, while dried sweet woodruff kept the fabric softly fragrant. This thoughtful ritual required both patience and delicate handling, as each smooth fold of woven linen was laid flat between the aromatic wooden boards. The subtle tint of the blue paper offset any warm cast that age might bring to the fine threads, while the aromatic cedar timber and herbal woodruff provided a natural guard against dampness and time. As hands moved deliberately across the smooth weave, smoothing out every crease before closing the heavy press doors, a sense of deep order and contentment filled the room. The subtle herbal fragrance of sweet woodruff drifted through the air, mingling with the natural resin of the cedar cabinets to create a soothing scent profile that signified the peaceful completion of another day's domestic duties. As the night deepens, such quiet acts of restoration bring a profound stillness to the heart of the home. The care bestowed upon every napkin, tablecloth, and press tray reflects a quiet pride in craftsmanship, transforming repetitive physical labor into a meditative practice of preservation. Outside the high arched windows, the night breeze whispers softly through the surrounding gardens, brushing against the leaded panes and carrying away the lingering warmth of the afternoon sun. Inside, the last embers in the hearth glow faintly, casting soft shadows across the scrubbed pine counters, copper pans, and neatly stacked shelves. Soon, the final oil lamp will be trimmed low. The heavy brass keys rested upon their familiar iron ring, and the quiet servants' quarters will rest peacefully under the gentle, protective veil of midnight. Every neatly folded cloth waiting in the dark cedar press holds the quiet dedication of those who cared for it, suspended in calm readiness for the soft morning light that will soon return. As dusk surrenders to the velvety dark of night, a gentle hush settles across the expansive corridors of the grand Victorian estate. The hurried rhythms of daytime labor slow to a peaceful, measured cadence, softly whispered by the gentle rustle of linen aprons and the distant, rhythmic ticking of a grandfather clock in the hallway. Down low in the service quarters, where stone flagstones retain the mild cool of evening, the final quiet tasks of the day are carried out with patient care. Light filtering from low-burning oil lamps casts soft, warm ambers across dark wood paneling, softening every edge and wrapping the sleeping house in a blanket of tranquil calm. In these late hours, when the family upstairs has retired and the busy chatter of the scullery has dimmed, the work of the household turns to gentle preservation and subtle polish. Each movement is quiet, deliberate, and smooth, designed to maintain order while respecting the deep, restful stillness that now fills every hallway, parlor, and corridor. Beyond the heavy baize doors, where the high-ceilinged reception rooms rest in dim tranquility, the hearths hold the waning embers of the afternoon fires. It was in such serene spaces that the finest detailing of the house was quietly sustained through gentle hands and traditional craft. In the quiet drawing rooms of Saltram House in Devon, scullery maids polished ornate brass hearth fenders using a velvety paste of powdered rotten stone and sweet olive oil, buffing the metal with soft woolen flannels until it reflected the flickering firelight. The rhythmic movement of flannel against brass produced a soothing, repetitive cadence, transforming dull metal into a gleaming mirror of warm, firelit tones. As each fender was meticulously restored, the rich scent of olive oil mixed pleasantly with the lingering aroma of wood smoke and polished mahogany, creating an atmosphere of deep comfort and timeless order. The maids worked without haste, finding a restful solace in the simple, predictable nature of their craft, knowing that when morning broke, the gleaming hearths would catch the first rays of dawn and welcome another peaceful day to the estate. Meanwhile, deeper within the warm heart of the domestic quarters, the stillroom preserved the sensory essence of forgotten summer days for the cold months ahead. Here, away from drafts and damp air, the ambient warmth of the kitchen hearth created an ideal sanctuary for drying precious botanical harvests lovingly gathered from the estate's sprawling gardens. In the quiet stillroom at Harewood House in Yorkshire, housemaids laid fresh lemon verbena leaves and rose petals onto mesh trays above the bread oven's gentle overnight heat, packing the dried herbs into stone crocks with coarse salt for winter sachets. The slow, steady warmth extracted the essential oils, filling the enclosed room with a delicate fragrance of citrus and sweet blossom that lingered softly in the air. These fragrant crocks, once sealed and stored in cool cupboards, would later yield fragrant sachets to sweeten bed linens and wardrobe drawers throughout the chill of winter. With their evening duties complete, the servants checked the iron stoves one last time, turned down the wicks of the lamps, and allowed the soft, lingering scents of rose and verbena to guide the entire house into peaceful, dreamless sleep. As dusk settled over the grand countryside estates of the late Victorian era, a serene shift in routine took place within the quiet corridors behind closed doors. Upstairs, family members retreated into drawing rooms warmed by hearthfire, while downstairs, housemaids began their evening rounds to prepare the lights that would gentle the coming darkness. For generations, this twilight ritual had centered on trimming cotton wicks, scraping away dark soot, and carefully filling brass reservoirs with paraffin oil. Yet as the century neared its close, a handful of forward-thinking households introduced quiet marvels of modern engineering that transformed these evening tasks. The familiar rhythm of tending the lights remained essential to the home's calm harmony, but the illumination itself shifted into something wondrously clear and steady, requiring a fresh kind of quiet attentiveness from the hands entrusted with its care. In these pioneering homes, the arrival of new lighting methods brought a delicate sense of quiet wonder to the domestic staff's daily duties. At Cragside in Northumberland, housemaids maintained the estate's early Joseph Swan electric lamps by wiping the hand-blown glass globes with soft silk cloths, holding each piece by its brass socket to protect the fragile carbon filaments. Unlike the heavy odors and smoky film left behind by traditional paraffin or town gas, these transparent spheres required no fuel refills, preserving both the room's fresh air and the intricate plasterwork overhead. Cleaning them demanded an almost meditative gentleness, as the maids held each lamp carefully by its metal base, ensuring the delicate filament inside remained undisturbed, while soft silk removed every lingering trace of dust. The resulting light was soft, warm, and remarkably clear, casting an inviting atmosphere across dark oak paneling and heavy draperies without generating the stifling heat of older open flames. This attentive care extended beyond the grand reception rooms and into the hidden passage networks that connected the service wings to the main house. Moving through the quiet, dim hallways with soft, rhythmic steps, the maids checked each globe in turn, ensuring that every corner of the vast residence enjoyed a steady, soothing glow as night settled over the surrounding grounds. Tending to these early electrical marvels gave the staff a unique closeness to the frontier of modern invention. Yet the task itself remained deeply rooted in traditional values of thoroughness, silence, and gentle, thoughtful preservation. As each glass globe was dusted, the quiet satisfaction of a job well done drifted through the corridors, blending smoothly with the calm atmosphere of an estate preparing for sleep. When the final lamps were inspected and the last evening requests attended to, a profound stillness enveloped both the grand rooms above and the humble workspaces below. Down in the servants' quarters, small oil lamps and quiet hearth embers provided a warm and cozy backdrop as the staff folded away their aprons and rested their tired limbs. The introduction of clean electricity upstairs had eased the labor of scrubbing heavy soot from walls and delicate curtains, granting everyone a lighter burden at the end of their long day. Wrapped in the tranquil silence of the quiet, sleeping house, the servants could finally surrender to peaceful, restoring rest, knowing their careful hands had kept the home gentle, warm, bright, and serene through another evening. As twilight fell across the sweeping lawns and drew deep blue shadows over the tall stone facade of the country house, a gentle quiet drifted through the long back corridors. Down in the domestic wing, the hurried energy of midday softened into a deliberate, rhythmic pace, marked by the quiet swish of cotton skirts against flagstones and the steady ticking of the clock in the servants' hall. The evening duties of a Victorian household were carried out not with haste, but with a well-rehearsed grace that matched the gradual, soothing dimming of the twilight sky beyond the high-arched windows. Upper housemaids moved softly up and down the back staircases, carrying linen baskets and checking that the heavy velvet drapes were drawn tight against the gathering dusk. In every corner of the estate, from the grand drawing rooms to the narrow passageways of the service quarters, there was a shared understanding that the long day was slowly drawing to a close. The work that remained was gentle and restorative, designed to prepare both the grand family above stairs and the dedicated staff below for a restful night of deep, undisturbed slumber under the peaceful shelter of the old roof. Central to this evening ritual was the careful tending of the oil lamps, a quiet task requiring patience, foresight, and a practiced hand to ensure the lights burned brightly without troubling the household with harsh smoke. To keep oil lamps burning cleanly without soot, Victorian housemaids at Lydiard House soaked cotton wicks in vinegar and dried them thoroughly, creating a steady, calm flame that scented the halls softly of cider. This simple yet meticulous preparation transformed the routine lighting of the house into an almost sensory lullaby. As night deepened, the housemaids moved through the darkened corridors with small brass taper lighters, touching fire to each carefully prepared wick in turn, watching as a tender yellow glow expanded through the shadows, where once harsh tallow smoke might have settled upon the gilded frames and plasterwork. There was now only a warm, amber radiance that cast gentle halos upon the polished oak paneling. The subtle, crisp aroma lingering in the air brought a comforting sweetness to the cool stone passages, softening the transition from the bustling activity of the afternoon to the serene stillness of nightfall. With the lamps lit and the hearth fires safely banked with ash, the quiet sanctuary of the servant quarters welcomed the staff for their final moments of rest before retiring to their rooms under the eaves. Sitting together near the glowing embers of the kitchen range, their hands relaxed upon their aprons, the housemaids and footmen enjoyed the tranquil lull that always accompanied the night's arrival. Outside, the wind whispered through the ancient trees surrounding the grounds, but inside, the house held a feeling of absolute security and quiet harmony. The soft light of the cider-scented lamps flickered gently against the cool stone walls, guiding tired feet up the back stairs toward the cozy upper dormitories, where clean wool blankets and soft feather pillows awaited their weary heads. Every small act of care performed throughout the day now bore its silent fruit, wrapping the entire house in a blanket of calm, peaceful rest that would remain unbroken until the first light of dawn touched the horizon. As dusk settles over the great country estate, and the evening lamps cast a soft, amber glow along the timber-paneled back corridors, the quiet rhythm of domestic care slowly shifts toward the night's gentle preparations. Deep within the calm, quiet sanctuary of the housekeeper's sitting room, beside a softly crackling hearth, the day's quiet achievements are recorded with careful, deliberate penmanship. Here, housekeepers kept handwritten stillroom ledgers, such as the 1860 book preserved at Audley End, detailing precise recipes for lavender-infused linen waters and sweet marjoram sachets tucked between heavy feather mattresses. These carefully preserved formulas brought a subtle, soothing botanical freshness to every guest chamber, turning crisp cotton sheets and heavy down bedding into tranquil havens of restful sleep. Every page of the worn leather ledger reflected a deep, intuitive knowledge of flowers and herbs, where aromatic blossoms gathered during the sunlit peak of midsummer were painstakingly distilled, dried, and folded into fine linens, so that their gentle fragrance might linger through the quietest hours of darkness. The subtle scents of lavender and marjoram offered a comforting reminder of summer gardens, infusing the high-ceilinged bedchambers with a natural calm that eased the evening transitions for everyone dwelling within the grand house. Upstairs, as the winter chill begins to press against the high glass window panes and the cold night air settles into the quiet stone walls, the housemaids move through the dimly lit passages with practiced, soft-footed grace. Their work in these final hours of evening is centered entirely on ensuring that every sleeping chamber becomes an oasis of inviting warmth long before the household retires for the night. In winter evenings, housemaids warmed icy cotton sheets for guests by gliding long-handled brass warming pans filled with beechwood embers between the covers, leaving a subtle aroma of toasted wood smoke and warm flannel. The polished brass pans, holding their glowing store of steady heat, were glided back and forth across the crisp bed linens in slow, rhythmic sweeps, gently releasing the lingering frost from the heavy weave and creating a deeply comforting, cozy atmosphere. This quiet bedtime ritual required patience, care, and a steady touch, ensuring the embers glowed just enough to radiate softness without scorching the delicate fabric, wrapping the guest quarters in a welcoming shelter of gentle heat and soothing fragrance. Once the bedchambers have been rendered warm and fragrant, the heavy velvet draperies are pulled securely across the tall windows to seal out the evening drafts, and the oil lamps are dimmed down to a soft, golden ember. Stepping quietly along the hidden back staircases, the servants descend to their own quiet quarters as the main house falls into complete, peaceful stillness. Outside, the night wind hums softly through the ancient oaks surrounding the grounds, while within, the silent warmth remains safe, steady, and constant. Below stairs, the fires in the great cast iron ranges are banked down to low coals, casting faint, dancing shadows across the polished copper cookware, tin jelly molds, and scrubbed pine tables. In these restful moments before sleep, a profound tranquility settles over the entire house, where every unspoken effort of the day resolves into quiet comfort, allowing both house and servants to rest deeply in the soft, protective calm of the night. As the deep tranquility of midnight settles over the grand estate, the final faint echoes of daily routine gently fade into complete, soothing stillness. Upstairs and downstairs alike, the relentless demands of the Victorian household draw to their peaceful conclusion for the night. In the vast kitchens below, the heavy copper pans hang cool and silent upon their hooks, and the massive cast iron range has been carefully banked with dry ash, its intense heat softening into a faint, comforting warmth that lingers in the calm air. The long back corridors, once filled throughout the day with the swift, hushed steps of maidservants carrying silver trays and fresh linens, are now wide avenues of soft velvet shadow. High above in the quiet attic bedrooms, nestled beneath the slanted roof eaves, the tired housemaids and footmen lay down their daily burdens, pulling heavy wool blankets up to their chins. A profound sense of rest settles over these small, unadorned quarters, where the gentle rhythm of slow breathing fills the dark, and the soft night air carries away every remaining fragment of the day's labor. In the lower halls, the remaining night watches draw down to a soft, rhythmic whisper as the domestic world closes its eyes. Before retiring at midnight, the night porter at Broadsworth Hall in Yorkshire tended floating night lights set in small glass cups of olive oil, providing a gentle, flicker-free glow along the dark stone staircase until dawn. This modest illumination required only a tiny wick supported by a thin cork disc, floating serenely upon a clear pool of oil within each glass. Unlike sputtering tallow candles or bright gas jets of the era, these delicate lamps produced a soft, steady luminescence that did not smoke or flicker in the cool drafts of the passageways. The gentle light bathed the cold stone steps in a soothing warmth, ensuring that any late-bound servant or watchful retainer could navigate the dark corridors with safety and calm. As the porter completed his quiet rounds, trimming wicks and checking final locks, the small glass cups stood like tranquil sentinels along the stairwell, casting soft, rounded shadows against the smooth plaster walls, while the vast house slept deeply around them. Outside, a cool night breeze whispers softly through the ancient gardens and sweeps across the stillness of the surrounding countryside, while inside, the house rests in timeless, unbroken calm. Every chamber holds a quiet sanctuary. The grand drawing rooms rest behind closed mahogany doors, their gilded frames and heavy velvet draperies enveloped in peace, while the servant spaces below stairs rest in equal quietude. The heavy oak timbers and thick stone foundations retain the gentle warmth of the hearths, keeping the chill of the midnight air at bay. There is no longer any hurry, no brass bell ringing for attendance, no remaining task left unfinished in the dim light. The steady, slow tick of the tall grandfather clock in the central hall acts as a gentle heartbeat for the sleeping residents, marking the quiet passage of peaceful hours until the first pale light of morning. as the faint glow of the oil cups illuminates the dark stone. A serene stillness wraps itself around every corner, inviting a deep, restful slumber that carries all into the quiet harmony